Hey, y'all. If you want to head to our website to check out all the different things Pizzazz offers, then just head to pizzazzart.com. That's PZAZZART.com. You will see our online memberships. We've got Kids Club memberships, our Lettering Club membership, our one project a month membership. We call that Paint and Praise. You will see some freebies that we've got there for you, and you'll see our local classes if you're local. So head to the website, check it out, pizzazzart.com, PZAZZART.com. Hey, y'all, it's Casey Hope from the Here's Hope podcast, and today we are diving into a topic that I think some people may have trouble believing sometimes. I know there are times that I have doubted this biblical truth, yet time and time again, God reveals the truth that trumps my doubts. So, have you ever been talking and felt like the person that you were talking to did not absorb a thing you were saying? Like nothing. This seems to happen to me all the time inside the walls of my house. I'm like, did anybody just hear a thing I said? It's like if the TV's on, I know that the boys in my house are not absorbing a thing that I am saying. Do you know what I mean? I can talk, I can ask questions, I can tell them fun things that we're going to go do. I could just make up outrageous stuff and it would not matter. They don't hear a thing when their mind is on the TV. I've seen the same thing with like video games or screen time. Last week we were on vacation and I saw this happening to my sister-in-law as she was talking to my nephew. I forgot what she was telling him, something that she wanted him to like get up and take action on. But his mind was so locked into the game that he was playing on his iPad that he did not even hear a thing that she was saying. Like didn't acknowledge her, didn't move, nothing. Or sometimes I will be like chatting it up with my husband. We're both in the kitchen. I'm doing a few things. He's doing a few things, only to realize that he has his AirPods in listening to a podcast. And so he has no clue that I'm even talking to him. It drives me crazy, y'all. Crazy. Sometimes I feel like that YouTube video from years back. Do y'all remember it? Like, you're not listening to me, Linda. You're not listening to me. That's what I feel like sometimes. There was a post on Facebook that makes me laugh. It said, when I asked God to help make me a good parent, he must have thought I said parrot, because all I do is repeat myself. I feel that, y'all. I feel that 100%. Like, is anybody in this house listening to me? Do they even hear me? Let me ask you something, though. Do you ever feel like that with God? Like you talk, but you're not sure if he's hearing your prayers. Like sometimes you don't see action being had. You don't see evidences that he hears you. And it can cause you to think, does God really hear me? I've been there. Now, the Bible is full of scripture that tells us that he does. So let's look at scripture at what it says. 1 John 5:14. And this is the confidence that we have towards him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. 1 Peter 3:12. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. Psalm 34:17. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of their troubles. Now, this is just 3 verses, y'all. There's a lot of verses that over and over talk about how the Lord hears and delivers. He hears and answers. We can read these verses, but at the same time, sometimes they can just be hard to believe. I can remember so many times when prayers just seemed like they took forever to be answered. I was begging God to answer prayers, and it didn't look like he was answering. I remember on one particular occasion when I was praying about finances and things were just not moving like I had hoped that they would move. I'm praying, I am begging, I am pleading God to show me answers, to move some things. And I just remember just crying one day and just saying to God, God, I feel like you have just forgotten me. And in my soul, that is what I felt. I was just sad. I didn't see any answers to prayers, and it just felt heavy. It felt so, so heavy. And I just said, God, I feel like you have forgotten me. And I thought, I don't even know if he's hearing me. Why would he leave me in this hard spot if he heard my prayers? That is what I felt like. Keyword being felt. Okay? Let me tell you, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Feelings are not truth. And I need you to know that today, because you might be feeling some certain way, and you need to know that feelings are not truth. Feelings can change. Circumstances can change. I can feel bad about a circumstance one day, and the very next day, maybe I've had a little more coffee, a little more sleep, and I feel fine about the exact same circumstance. Seriously. I mean, do you feel like that? I'm like, nothing's really changed, but somehow it's not bothering me as bad today. That shows me that my feelings are not final. My feelings are not indicators of what is true. They're not. Mine are not, and yours are not. Feelings are not final. Feelings are not truth. They are not indicators of what is true. So just because I sometimes feel like God isn't listening to me, I can look back to what's been true in my life before, and that helps me to know that, yes, he absolutely does hear me. I want to share some examples of just things that have happened even just this past month that I thought were such cool God moments, because once again, he was proving that he heard me, and not just heard my prayers. He hears my thoughts, because sometimes I will just have a fleeting little thought, and I'm not taking it to God in prayer. It's just a fleeting thought. But then he's so good to answer that fleeting thought in such a cool God way. He hears our thoughts. He hears the desires of our hearts. He hears the questions that just roll through our head really quickly. Fleeting thoughts, all of that he hears. So a couple of examples, just maybe 2 weeks ago, I had a lot on me, a lot of just different stress and different stuff. And I had the thought in my head, and I was talking to God about this. And I was like, God, I just feel like I don't have anybody to talk to about this. I feel like nobody can relate to exactly what I'm going through. And that's a yuck place to feel like you're there, because you feel like, oh, I don't want to talk to this person about it because they don't have a clue and they're not going to be able to help. And all they can do is listen, but they're not going to be able to offer advice. Or I don't want to talk to this person about it because it sounds like trivial compared to what they're going through. And I just was feeling alone, like I didn't have anybody that was going through what I was going through. And this is so cool, and just such a God's timing, God's goodness, God hearing my thought. We have talked about, how God speaks to us in different ways, and sometimes that's through other people. And I think that absolutely sometimes he just prompts other people in our life to say things, and to say things at a certain time, or to reach out at a certain time. So this exact morning that I am saying this to God, that I feel like nobody feels like I feel, and I don't know who to talk to. We have a group chat, some friends who are all over the United States, and they are just some of my best friends. And wouldn't you know it, one of my friends in that group chat plopped in a quick little question about, or not a question, just a statement about what she was feeling like that morning and what she was going through. And it mirrored what I was feeling like and what I was going through to a T. It was such a interesting timing that is the moment that I'm praying to God, saying nobody understands, that she drops this in the group message. And so I then proceed to say, I totally get what you're saying. This is exactly how I felt this morning. And you know what happened? Somebody else in the group said, I didn't know anybody was feeling like this or going through this. I'm going through the same thing. Y'all, that is the power of just prayer. God connected the pieces. All of us were already friends. All of us talk about things all the time. But that is a God moment whenever I am crying out to him and praying about something that I feel like nobody understands. Not truth. I just feel like that. And then he prompts another friend to voice this concern. So now I'm feeling like, okay, I'm not alone. And then yet another friend, like there were multiple things inside of that group message that started with one friend being vulnerable and sharing how she was feeling. And she had no idea kind of the chain effect that was going to have. But I think that it was just such a cool God wink that I got you. Just when you think nobody understands, I'm going to use my people to show you you're not alone in this boat. And it was just so cool. Another thing that, again, these just happened in the past month. That's why, I can give you so many examples, but these are just the recent examples of me seeing God hearing my thoughts, my prayers, my everything. So a few weeks back, I was at camp with my daughter. It was a fun youth camp, and I just had a lot of things going on this summer that caused me to be away from work, and all things that I loved, by the way. I was going to be the the chaperone for that youth camp. And then I think the very next week we were going to go to Honduras. And those were 2 big weeks of pouring out and serving and, investing in other people. And I did just have this fleeting moment because this was taking a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy. And there was just this fleeting thought that I'm not proud of, but I had this fleeting thought of, does what I do even matter? Is all this even making a difference? The time that I pour into investing in kids or going on trips or being a small group leader or, any of the different things, I just had that fleeting thought of, does what I do matter? And I didn't really, that wasn't a prayer. It was just a thought that went through my head. And what I didn't realize until the end of the week, looking back on the week and remembering that I had thought that earlier, I was like, oh my goodness, look what God has done this week. And let me tell you what he had done. I first got a message on Instagram from one of our kids in Honduras that I first met 10 years ago. So there's been a 10-year relationship and, and just knowing him and seeing him grow up, and he's in college now. And I got an Instagram message of him showing me his report card and me being able to or maybe not report, whatever you call it in college, might not be called a report card, but showing me his grades. And I was able to encourage him and cheer for him and tell him how proud I was of him. And I just loved that. I just loved to see him growing up and doing so good. And that was one day. And then another day, you don't really think about how all these things are connecting until you think about it. But then several days later, I got a message from a girl that I started mentoring and taking to church and just kind of kept her under my wing. She was probably in about 6th grade when I started just investing in her and just helping her do life. And she's now out of college and in the workforce. And she had a couple weeks off and she just messaged me and was like, hey, I want to come down and visit you. And unfortunately, we were not able to make it work, but it was still just so good to hear from her again and to keep that connection, to know that she's doing good and well. I'm just happy to see how good she's doing. It did my heart good to hear from her. And then a phone call from another boy who, again, this is a kid that he started coming to church with us, and we started bringing him to VBS. His parents didn't come, but he wanted to ride with us. So we just made ourselves available and continued to pick him up for years and years, starting when he was in about the 2nd or 3rd grade. Now he's in the workforce, and he was calling to tell me this awesome job he got. And I was so proud of him. And I just, cheerleaded him and, just telling him how proud I was of him. And it just did my heart good to hear from all of them. But what was such the God thing in all of this is I don't talk to them every week. Some of them I haven't talked to in 6 months, a year. Y'all, in the same week that I have the fleeting thought of, is what I'm doing, does it matter? God prompted each of those 3 kiddos that are not really kiddos anymore. He prompted each of those 3 to reach out to me in different ways. And when I realized the timing of that, when I looked back and I was like, God, you are so cool. You hear me. You even hear those little thoughts that I wasn't even bringing to you. I just had it in my head for a second. Okay, God, that those little thoughts, he cares about me. He wants to affirm me. He is for me. And he prompted, I have no doubt he prompted the timing, of all 3 of those to reach out the same week right after I had that little thought. And I just thought, I don't know. It's just one of those other affirmations of God does hear us. He does hear us. And he will move pieces to make sure that we know that I hear you and I got you. And so if you're in that place right now of just feeling like, does God hear me? If you're feeling like I was feeling that one time of I just feel like he's forgotten about me, I just want to encourage you with a few things. Number 1, your feelings are not final. Your feelings are not indicators of truth. Okay. Just that's not even number 1. That's something. But number 1, get honest with God. Tell him how you feel. Tell him how you feel. I was honest, even though it was a fleeting thought, I was honest on thinking, I don't know if this is making a difference. I was honest and saying, I don't think God, anybody else can feel what I'm going through. I was just pouring my heart out. It was my emotions. I was pouring it out to him. Get honest with him. Your prayers don't have to be nice and tidy. You can get real and get honest with him. Tell him how you feel. And then number 2, watch for ways that he confirms that he does in fact hear you. I didn't realize that those ways that when I got the first Instagram message or the first call from one of those kids, I didn't realize at first that they were answered prayer. But when I looked back over the week and just put it all together at the timing of it, I was like, God, you're so cool. So think back to times in the past when God has answered a prayer so specifically that there is no doubt that he was listening. So again, get honest with him. Tell him how you feel. Watch for ways that he is confirming that he does hear you, and think back to all the ways that he has answered before. And this is going to just kind of give you that, to fuel your faith that yes, indeed, he does hear you. Your feelings are not final. Your feelings are not truth. What is true is that God loves you and he hears you. Sometimes we just need extra assurance from God. We just need a little extra push that he is not like those family members with their AirPods in, or somebody that's too distracted to listen. We got to be reminded that he's not like that. Thankfully, he is way bigger than that. He can listen to all of us fully. So take your cares to him today and know that yes, he does hear you. I'm so glad that we serve a God who hears us and cares for us. It just makes walking through this life so much better. I hope y'all enjoyed that podcast. Y'all be sure to go subscribe this, leave a review. Let us know how you're liking it. We like that feedback. And if you want to follow us on other social platforms, on Instagram, it's Pizzazz Art Studio. Same for Facebook. And Pizzazz is P-Z-A-Z-Z. Pizzazz Art Studio. Go check us out and see what all we have to offer over there.